Hey, how's it going? davidinark here. I had a comment on a video. It's one of my tutorial videos, the comment itself was about having some trouble with BeamNG. Even though they've swapped out multiple video cards and tried some different things, they're getting the GPU lockup error, or basically saying that the GPU is not responding. So I originally had started to type out a response, but it was getting way too long, and I thought it might be better addressed in a video. So bear with me. Some of this stuff you may already know, some of it you may have heard, but this is going to be a little different perspective than some of the other BeamNG tutorials that I've done. So hopefully, if you're having the GPU lockup issue with BeamNG, that something in here might be a way to get around that. The very first thing I'm going to recommend is bring up the BeamNG drive launcher. Once you bring up the launcher, you're going to choose Manage User Folder. From there, you want to click on the Open in Explorer option, and that's going to open up your Windows Explorer inside the current version of the game. As of this recording, 0.25. Notice immediately to the left it says BeamNG.drive. Click on that, and that will take you to a list of all of the versions that you've got installed on your computer. Now, before we can do anything else here, you need to bring the BeamNG drive launcher back up again, because we've got to close out of this. So you want to click the X, and that's going to close the Manage User Folder window. And then you're going to click the next X, which is actually going to close BeamNG drive. Now, once you've done that, you're going to right-click on the Current Versions folder, go down and choose Rename, and just rename this something else. Now, I usually like to just click out at the end and type -OLD for old and press enter. BeamNG doesn't care, just so it's called something else. Because then, once you've got it renamed, what you want to do is relaunch BeamNG drive. And when you do that, you notice in the background here that it created a brand new 0.25 folder. And so that's a fresh install. Now, you're going to lose your settings. You're going to lose your mods, all that stuff. You didn't really lose them. They're in the old folder. But for now, we're just trying to get a clean slate so that BeamNG can launch. So what you want to do now is launch the game and see if it works. If it does fix the GPU problem and it goes away, then at that point, you know that there is something in your configuration that is throwing off BeamNG drive. Most likely, it's a mod. And I know the first thing people say is, well, I booted into safe mode, which disables all of the mods, and it's still locked up on me. I get that. I understand that. But I am telling you, there are some mods that even when they are disabled, somehow still manage to mess around with what BeamNG is doing. How? I have no idea, but I just know what happens. So if this works, then you're good to go. What I would do at that point is slowly, and I mean slowly, add your mods back in. Don't just dump them all back in and go, oh, well, it's crashing again. Yeah, no, duh. Just grab a mod, try it, see how it runs. Do another mod. And I know some folks will be like, well, I got 250 mods. Sorry, I'm giving you advice. And this is my recommendation. Do what you want to with it. Right? Okay. So let's say, though, that you do this, all right, and you rename the user folder. You have a brand new user folder going, and the game is still throwing GPU issues, even if you have updated to the latest video drivers, which is wholeheartedly recommended. Likewise, if the new drivers don't seem to fix it, sometimes rolling back to older drivers might fix it. So maybe you've tried that. You go out to the manufacturer website or the brand of card that it is. You get their drivers that take a step below the current drivers and you install those. Try it out. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. If none of that works, I've tried different video cards, I've tried different versions of drivers, I renamed the folder, nothing is working, it's still locking up the GPU. Then at that point, I would venture that you've got some kind of a weird hardware issue. Now, I know one of the responses that, one of the thoughts that immediately pops into people's heads, well, if I was having some kind of a hardware issue, it would happen with every application. It would happen with every game. That is not true. And I've got a prime example of that. And so for the first thing I'm going to do is the TLDR, and that is the first thing I would check is your RAM. If you've got multiple memory sticks in your computer, I would pop one of those out, run the system just like you normally would, see if you still get the GPU error. If you still get the error, then put the one you took out back in and take out the other one. Now, again, yes, this is assuming that your system can run with a single bank of memory. So, your mileage may vary, but in my system, I'm able to do this. And take out, so you put back in the one you had taken out, pull out the one that was already in there, fire up the system, let it run through its thing, and see if that fixes it. If that fixes it, then most likely you've got bad memory somewhere, right? I would actually recommend you do this for both sticks independently, regardless. So run with one stick, see if you get the error. Now, if you get the error on the one stick, then there's a good chance that that stick is bad. But again, you put in the other one, run with it, and see if you get the error. Okay. If the error goes away with just the one stick in there, then you know you've got a bad stick of memory. It's time to get some new RAM. I can vouch for this because I went through a stint where I thought my graphics card was completely hosing up. For me, it happened in my video editing software. I would edit videos. I could edit videos all day long, but when I was rendering them out or finalizing the videos, they would get to about 95% and then bam, drop to the desktop and all that work was gone. But I was ultimately able to narrow it down to one of my memory sticks was bad and it was acting all kinds of janky. And so that's my solution. I had to go buy new RAM. So I'm throwing that out there based on my personal experience. I wholeheartedly recommend checking that, especially because I tried multiple video cards. I tried, all kinds of different solutions. It could also be that there is just something else going on with your system itself. So you definitely want to make sure that you're not running anything else in the background as much as you can eliminate those things. So for example, if you've got the Epic Games launcher, the Rockstar launcher, if you've got Origin, if you've got the Ubisoft thing, any of those, if you have any other game launcher running down in your taskbar while you're doing BeamNG, close all of those out. Likewise, if your Steam is set up to allow downloads while you are playing, disable that. Make sure you turn off downloads while you are playing and see if that fixes it. Now, as I'm giving you all of these tips, the thing to remember is that you want to do each of these independently. If you go in and you change a whole bunch of things and it's working, you don't know exactly what fixed it. And I know some folks will be like, well, who cares? It fixed it. But the problem with that is you may not have addressed what the actual issue is. So just can kind of keep that in mind. So I know this was a little different than what I normally put out there in terms of troubleshooting and helping get through some of this, but I haven't necessarily talked about these approaches for troubleshooting, especially BeamNG drive. So let me know down in the comments, what did you try? What worked? What didn't work? What has your experience been with especially the GPU lockup? Let me know. Love to hear it. Thank you so much for watching. As always, special thanks to Hero of God, GamerGull, LosWilko, Connie C, Zachary, 7220 Gamer, and the Maestro of Madness. I love you guys for supporting the channel on Patreon and channel memberships. It really means so much to me. And thank you so much for watching. Whether you support the channel by watching it or by liking it, sharing it, whatever it is, thank you so much for spending a little time with me here at davidinark. I am davidinark. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.